Hey guys, welcome to the second episode of Beaneater Buzz. I'm your host Jordan Hunt. Back here with my friend Colin Mchugh. We're excited. Lots of stuff going on this week. Super busy week for Braves fans. Pretty emotional week. We've kind of turned the page of sorts. Freddie Freeman is now a Los Angeles Dodger. He got a nice fat check. 6 years, $162 million. Good for Freddie Freeman. But we also have some big news on the extension front with Matt Olson that we'll kind of go over. Spring training has started, so we'll go over some of those stats and stuff, and then kind of touch on what some of the new guys did, some of the new signings and stuff that we pulled off this week. So how are you?
I'm good. Good. How are you doing, Jordan?
I'm doing all right. How are you feeling about all these signings?
Excited. I'm just ready for April 7th. Very excited.
Yeah. All that extra money from not signing Freddie Freeman seems to have paid off in a sense. I really doubt that if we sign Freddie Freeman, we go out and get all of the pieces that we ended up acquiring. So it's pretty exciting. I'll kind of, what I'll probably do is I'll go ahead, jump into spring training first, and then we can kind of follow in with some of the signings and, the Matt Olson extension, all of that stuff. Spring training got off to a pretty fun start. Braves almost threw a no-hitter in the first game. I think they were, I want to say 2 outs away, but they might not have gotten an out before they gave up a hit. I know the ninth inning, they ended up giving a run or two. So, it was 1 run, JDLC. So, in that game though, Bryce Elder, 3 innings pitched, no runs, no hits, a walk, and a couple Ks. That's pretty good. I think Bryce Elder probably stands a chance at making the rotation if some of the other guys flop. So that could be
an option. Starting the season in AAA, but it's like always good to know you have arms down there. That
oh yeah, and we do have a few arms down there. I think Kyle Wright will probably get every chance to make the club.
I think so too.
After what he did in the World Series and stuff, it's just kind of. I feel like we kind of owe it to him. I mean, after we gave him a full season at AAA last year, and he was really good. AAA. He just, they finally dedicated Kyle Wright to staying in AAA and just playing a full season, trying to get that development in, and it seemed to have paid off. Hopefully it actually turns into something, something productive for Kyle. He's a good dude. He deserves it. We always talk about him.
I'd love to succeed. Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, people have always talked about him having top of the rotation stuff. He's probably not going to end up being that guy. I think we've all kind of, accepted that him being a number 4, number 5 for us would be pretty successful for Kyle Wright. So hopefully he pulls that off. But, go into a few other things from that day. Matt Olson got his first hit. He got a little dribbler to left field with a little RBI. That was nice to see. And then let's see. Oh, Waters hit a home run. Right-handed homer too. So that was kind of nice to see. And then of course today he ends up coming up with a, sore hamstring. So hopefully that's nothing. Prior to I don't want to say prior to the injury, but yesterday's game was televised and everybody saw Waters flying. I mean, he was rolling around the bases going, I'm pretty sure he went first to home. I wasn't really paying a whole lot of attention because, got the baby and stuff going on. But I know that I did see Waters running pretty hard. He stole a base too. So he was feeling pretty good yesterday. So yeah, anyways,
minor.
What's that?
Hopefully just minor, nothing too bad. and
Hopefully, yeah. That's another guy that I'd like to see find it. I don't want to say that, but for Waters, it's been a rough couple years with the COVID shutdown, and then coming off of the COVID shutdown, he just didn't play that well last year. And, it made a lot of people lose favor in Drew Waters. And I mean, I'm sure you remember back in 2019, there were legitimate questions about who was going to be better, him or Christian Pache.
Right.
And somehow Pache ended up elevating a little bit higher than him, which really, if you think about it, is a bit interesting because Pache really hasn't done much more than he has, but he has made it to the majors. So I don't know. He gets a little bit of favor there, but Drew Waters is still an excellent hitter. He won the MVP in 2019 in AA. So hopefully he'll be able to find all that in AAA this season. But just to go over a few more things,
especially now that Pache's been traded, I think he might get a shot this year. Do you think there's a chance he gets called up this season?
So there's a lot of people speculating that he will. Okay, actually, I'll say this. I do think he'll end up playing at the major league level this season. Even if it's maybe just a September call up and, he gets a few pinch hit at bats or whatever. But there's also a small possibility that he ends up making the club out of spring, I guess. I'm sure everybody's well aware we don't really have a center fielder. We're one Adam Duvall injury away from Drew Waters starting in center field on opening day. I mean,
right.
Yeah, I mean, if he continues to have a phenomenal spring, which that was actually the next thing I was about to say is Waters already has 2 hits. He's got a homer and a single. He's got he's got a walk and a stolen base. So in 2 games, he's batting like 500, I think. And sure, 2 games, small sample. But
Good to see.
Spring, it's great to see. And spring is a small sample. And we've had guys come in spring who just blew us away and made the club on opening day. Now he's a little bit different story because he's a prospect and he's not, an Adrianza or Panda, both of those guys had phenomenal springs last year and basically forced Brian Snicker to put them on the club. Adrianza ended up sticking for the entire year. Panda, not so much, but he played a role in the entire year. He brought us Eddie Rosario. So, so it's definitely possible. I wouldn't be too shocked, but knowing Alex and how much he favors, his options and stuff like that, how careful and meticulous he is with that type of stuff, maybe he waits a little longer. But if Drew shows it and say Adam Duvall pulls a hammy or anything, we're in that situation where he might be playing in Atlanta on opening day. So that would be interesting. Couple other things. Michael Harris has been tearing it up early in spring. He's got a few hits. He had a big RBI double. He's got a couple stolen bases. The kid was phenomenal last year at single A. He'll probably start at double A this year. And I could see him being the future in center field. We clearly don't have any other options there. Like I said, we're talking about Adam Duvall starting on opening day. So that could be interesting. Let's see. Olson has a couple hits already, RBI. Muller pitched pretty well today. A couple of innings, 1 hit and a couple strikeouts. So good start for Kyle Muller. But
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah,
For
because
sure.
I mean, he is
Struggled a little bit. And yeah.
yeah, and he is competing for an opening day, or not an opening. Well, yeah, I guess a spot on the opening day roster, because this season's a bit different from other seasons where usually in the first 2 weeks or first week you have an off day or two to just kind of reset your rotation. Not this year. I think I read the Braves start with like 14 straight games, and you don't have any room to
Yeah.
not carry those two guys. So
Right.
we'll at least go with 4 starters, I'm sure. And then, Snit has definitely warmed up to the bullpen games. I mean, we threw 2 in the World Series, so clearly he's not too opposed to them. So,
and especially with the universal DH, you can do that.
Yeah.
You can do the openers and that sort of thing. So I definitely think we'll see more of that this year.
Yep. And actually, moving on towards my next line of thought was I was going to get into some of those signings. I'll kind of touch on this signing first because it plays right into that. Colin Mchugh, he was used as an opener last year, a decent amount down in Tampa Bay, and not just 1 inning outings, multiple innings. He had a couple where he threw 3 innings. So, I mean, we could be seeing, honestly, we could be seeing right out of the gate every 5th day, Colin Mchugh could be getting that 3 inning start. And that's a good signing. Alex Anthopoulos brought in Mchugh for 2 years, $10 million, 3rd-year option for another $6 million. So if you look at his baseball savant page, pretty phenomenal stuff. All red except for velo. So, I mean, I'm really happy with it. Do you like that signing? You're good with that one?
I'm very good with it.
Yeah.
And especially another Atlanta kid, a guy who wants to be here. I can't believe that Anthopoulos, got him for what he did. When you look
cheap
at what the Mets and Phillies and other teams are paying for relievers, it's like, wow. And this is a guy who had a really good, his K percentage was 30% last year. I mean, this guy can pitch the ball.
Yeah.
So
wow, I didn't realize it was that high. That makes me even happier. So yeah, I did write down a few stats on him. I've got down that he had a 10.41 K per 9. So anytime a guy's hitting that 10 K per 9, that's elite. That's elite. And even, like I said, his velo isn't there like a lot of other big name pitchers are and stuff. And maybe that hurt him in free agency. Maybe that's why Alex was able to get him so cheap. But I think also Atlanta just won a World Series. Atlanta is his home. It was probably a no-brainer for him. As soon as he got a phone call, he was probably like, yeah, this is where I'm going. So, 1.69 walks per 9, 1.5 ERA, 2.12 FIP, and 0.94 WHIP. I mean, all of those numbers are elite.
They are. Yeah, and I don't necessarily know that we can expect those numbers this year, but even if he's like a little bit, it's still going to be great. So I'm excited for sure.
Yeah, you can sacrifice some there, I mean, if he's, I mean, like I said, 2.12 FIP, if his FIP goes to 350, like nobody's going to cry. We're only paying him $4 million this season. So that's, like you said, Alex Anthopoulos just found another great deal and brought that one in. Another big signing that I know that you and I were both talking about last week is Eddie Rosario going to come back? And sure enough, Alex gets him 2 years, $18 million, another 3rd-year option on one of these deals for another $9 million. I mean, we could sit here and talk about the things Alex Anthopoulos does all day long. It says a lot about Alex Anthopoulos that today at Cool Today Park in spring training, he's signing autographs, right? how many other GMs are going to have autograph signings? And I'm sure that wasn't like out of, he's not the ego type guy. He's the like, I'm going to sit in the shadows and these deals are going to come to me. He's that type of guy. And it was probably weird for him to sign autographs, but I'm sure somebody was like, hey, look, man, these people want you signing autographs. I promise you, after everything that's going on this week, just for PR, you should get out there and sign some autographs. And, there was people telling him, you're a genius. Thank you for everything you've done. Like, you just don't see those things with a general manager. But anyways, Eddie Rosario, that's a great signing.
Yeah, when it was first reported, I think it was maybe Heyman had said he signed for 18 million. And I was like, okay, that's a lot of money for a year.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was like, 2 years. And I was like, we got him for 9 mil a year. Like, come on. I know he wanted to be there. And I think he told, he's like, I wanted to come back here. And so I think he was their top choice and they were able to work something out. And so it's one of those things where he's always going to have the legend of the NLCS. It's like,
always,
doesn't have the greatest year, whatever it is, it's always going to be, he's Eddie Rosario and he's the guy who helped launch us into the World Series. And so it's going to be great.
I think what he said, the quote I read from Eddie was, why wouldn't I want to come back here? We just won a World Series. And it's like, yeah, I mean, he's right. And we did that without Ronald Acuna. We did that without, Marcell Ozuna. That was supposed to be our number 4 hitter last year. And we didn't have that. And luckily, Austin Riley stepped up huge. But yeah, in the playoffs, Eddie Rosario became a legend. And he's going to get some forgiveness, even if he's not the same guy. And I think it's going to be important for people to remember that. Eddie Rosario, from the time he first took the field as an Atlanta Brave to the point that we won the World Series, he had the greatest 2-month stretch of his career. And people need to recognize that, because expecting that again over the course of a full season would be ridiculous. And 2 years, $18 million certainly wouldn't get it done for that guy. So they need, we do need to see that he's not necessarily that guy, but he's going to have stretches of being that guy. And I'm very excited about it. I think Eddie's a great fit in that clubhouse. The players love Eddie. He loved playing here. It's going to be fun. And like I said, I wrote down some stuff from Zips on Eddie Rosario, his projections for the 2022 season.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
Zips has him at 125 games, 22 homers, 67 runs, 81 RBIs, a 780 OPS, and a 103 weighted runs created plus.
Okay, above average.
Slightly above average.
I think even if for the 9 mil, I feel like even if he gives you 1 WAR, I feel like he's done.
He's earning his money. Yeah.
And I think he might, I'm not saying he might be incredible for us. It's like, so it'll be, it's exciting either way, obviously, but
yeah. And, if he likes playing where he's at, he's going to have a little bit more of that, I guess, how do I say, I guess happy players play well.
Mm-hmm.
They do. When guys are having fun, they really put up their best effort and their best production. And hopefully we'll get that out of Eddie. So either way, we've got him for 2 years and 18 million. He's a left-handed bat that's got some pop. That is one thing that is not exactly new for Eddie. He's had a few years where he's hit some home runs. I think a couple years ago he had 28 homers with Minnesota. So that's pretty good for a guy that you're, like you said, paying to basically give you 1 F4.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. So just moving on to a couple of the smaller signings before we get into, I would definitely say the 2 bigger signings is Alex Dickerson on a 1-year deal. If he makes the team, and me and you talked about this, that's a pretty good deal. $1 million for 1 year. Dude hit like 13 homers last year. Like,
I feel like you can't go wrong with just giving a guy $1 million and seeing what he does for you.
Right,
I think there's a good chance he makes the team.
Especially with Acuna out.
Yes.
Yeah, he's going to be playing. Now he's not going to be playing center field. He is not Adam Duvall with the glove. But he's got a little pop in his bat, and again, like you said, $1 million. That's not really anything that you're going to complain about a whole lot, even if he falls flat. Like if he's just a bench piece that pops you a few homers here and there. If he can fill in for the first month of the year, that's awesome. So
so it's good to have another lefty back, because I feel like that's sort of where we were.
And that's another important part of it is,
need.
Prior to the Rosario signing, we were looking at that lineup going, oof, lots of right-handers in there. And, that's not terrible. You can live with that a little bit, but ideally we wanted some more left-handed batters, and we got 2 of them. And again, credit to Alex Anthopoulos for even spotting Alex Dickerson. I don't think he was on anybody's radar to be an option for the Braves. Honestly, I didn't even know he was a free agent. So I thought he was still with the Giants.
Like, oh, okay.
So
I wouldn't have even thought about him.
Yep. So that was a nice little pick up there. And then Tyler Thornberg. It is an MLB contract. I didn't realize that. It's non-guaranteed though, $900K. So, if he makes the team, he could be one of those guys who, again, just fills a role in the beginning of the bullpen. Those early innings, maybe kind of like a Jesse Chavez type from last year. It can kind of give you maybe an inning or 2 here and there every couple days to kind of relieve some of the other guys. So he's going to be competing for a job with Darren O'Day and others. So the big bullpen signing is the 1-year deal, $16 million for Kenley Jansen. I think it shocked everybody. I don't think anybody saw that one coming.
Not at all. I mean, I knew he was a free agent. I feel like I just assumed he was going to go back to the Dodgers. He was like their longest tenured player, so I was like, I wouldn't have even thought of that. And I think even when Jeff Passan tweeted, it was like shocker, like Frazier and Jansen. And I saw that and I was like, well, and $16 million is a lot of money for a reliever.
A lot of money.
But he was, I think, hit or miss a little bit last year, but I think he can still do it. I think it'll be another one to kind of see what he can do for us. I think he's going to be our closer. It seems like Will Smith was like, whatever we need to do. I want to win another World Series. If I'm your 8th inning guy, that's fine.
I want another parade.
Awesome. And I was like, He's not like, I need this role. So I think it's, I think it'll be cool for sure.
Yeah. And I think, you just touched on it a little bit. It's common misconception that Kenley Jansen just wasn't really that good last year. He actually was really, really good, but there was a stretch for a few weeks where he just completely lost it. And when he did, Dodger fans turned on him, and they just, basically just wrote him off. And, he ended up coming back around, and I'm sure he earned his way back into some of their hearts and stuff, but they've been kind of giving Kenley a rough time for a few years. And, maybe that marriage was just meant to end. And what a better place to go than the team that just won a World Series, that just beat you in the World Series. And they did it with their bullpen. So, And I mean, he even said something about that today, about how scary our bullpen was when, the night shift would come in, the Tyler Matzeks, the AJ Mentors, Luke Jackson, and then Will Smith closing the door at the end. They were untouchable in the postseason last year. So he, like I said, he even said that they were, what did he say? Can't remember how he worded it, but basically he said they were scary. And now he's a part of that. And he's our anchor.
And he grew up a Braves fan.
Yep.
Was a big fan of Andrew Jones.
Yep.
I know he even congratulated Ozzy,
Mhm.
Curacao connection stuff after the
Yep.
we won the World Series and stuff. And it seems like, again, he wanted to go to the Braves. And like, what else can you ask for than a guy who's not just taking the most amount of money to go someplace he doesn't want to go, but a guy who's actually like, I want to be on this team.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah. And
so
I mean,
cool.
We've had a lot of that this past week too, was just guys saying, this is where I want to be. Matt Olson said, this is the place. And that's what he said. And like, that was just such a simple little quote, but this is the place. Like, it was just so resounding and powerful. It's just like, yeah, over the next decade, it probably is one of the top destinations for free agents.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how could it not be? Yeah, I mean,
the future is really bright. And
we won a World Series without our superstar. I mean, sure,
mm-hmm.
we had Freddie Freeman at the time. We had some other guys really step up, but the core that we have is going to make the Kenley Jansen's, the Colin Mchugh's, those type of guys. They're going to see that, especially with the chemistry that our bullpen shows and how much they love each other down there. They're going to see that. They're going to say, hey, I'm going to go pitch there. Like, those guys seem to have fun. They win a lot. I want to win a lot. And hopefully that'll pull some more of those guys in. We've got a few guys going to free agency next year, in Luke Jackson and then potentially Will Smith. I think if Will has another decent year, though, we'll probably go ahead and exercise that option. It's another $13 million. It hasn't really hurt us terribly the last 2 years. So, yeah. I mean, he's been worth what we're paying him. And I'm sure that Alex is not a reactionary figure. So he will see that and he'll look at the numbers and probably make the call to keep him around. So it'll be interesting to see how many of those quotes we get from guys like we're getting from Matt Olson and Kenley Jansen, that like, this is where I want to be. And potentially, according to Ken Rosenthal, I don't know if you saw that report today, but
Correa?
The Correa report, yeah. Apparently Scott Boras was just like, this is a serious potential destination next offseason if he opts out. And it's just like, wow. That infield would just be unreal. I can't even fathom it to think about how good it would be. So,
yeah.
I mean, we'll see.
I know Carlos Correa, he's an Astro, so a lot of people are like, oh, Carlos Correa, but I actually became a big fan of him in the postseason last year.
Yep.
Like, I was like, yeah, I'm starting to like him, and I just watching him on defense and stuff, and he's just very, very good. And I would love him on this team for sure.
I have said some very unsavory things about Carlos Correa over the last couple of years, but
the only one, I'm sure.
Like you said, going into the postseason, for whatever reason, maybe it was just he was having fun again, and it wasn't all the pressure of the scandal and all of that. Maybe that's what it was, but he really did come off as a different type of person, and it was refreshing to see. And all can be forgiven if you come to my town and help me slay the Dodgers again or whatever. So, and I tweeted today that would be the ultimate troll on the Dodgers, for us to hire their arch enemy and then just beat them to death with them. I mean, that would be rubbing their face in the dirt. It would be fantastic. So,
I really feel like the Braves and Dodgers it's becoming a rivalry. And I feel like they're
the biggest one in sports right now.
NL easily. Yeah.
It's the best rivalry in baseball right now. And anybody who says any different, they are lying to themselves. Sure, Red Sox, Yankees, but neither one of those teams is like a super team right now. They're not exactly, they're not exactly the guys that are going to be battling for a World Series title every year. They've got some good players, both teams. Now, I would be lying if I said that they didn't. The Red Sox just signed Trevor Story today. So that's a big piece. But it's... Sorry, my dog's barking.
I guess it's more that they just sort of
out.
that long-standing rivalry, not necessarily like two good teams right now. I know what you're saying. That's
Yeah,
just, it's always rivalry
because they're not in the same division doesn't mean that it can't be a huge rivalry. If we meet in October every year for 6 years straight or something like that, we've met them for what, 3 out of the last 5 years in October?
Yeah.
No,
yeah.
3 out of the last 4. 2019 is the only
18,
season we didn't meet.
2021.
So
18, yeah.
yeah. So if we play them in October every year for a 5 or 6 year stretch, and we're constantly back and forth, that becomes one of the best rivalries in baseball. You add the Freddie Freeman drama on top of it, and it's just, I mean, it's compelling. It's very compelling. Two teams, one of them is aging for sure. The Dodgers are getting older. And a lot of that's by design. They just paid a 32-year-old first baseman $162 million. So, and then you've got the Braves who are doing it the opposite way. And their free agent signings are more calculated and smaller. But they've also got they've got a ton of youth on the Braves. That's what's working for the Braves right now. So last thing I want to, kind of get into is the Matt Olson extension. Pretty huge thing that happened last week. $168 million over 8 years with a $20 million extension, or excuse me, $20 million option year for a 9th year. That could ultimately bring it to $188 million. Like we said earlier, clearly the Freddie Freeman situation was not about the money.
Right.
So, it was about years. Matt Olson is a few years younger. He's 27. I think he's either about to turn 28 or he just turned 28. And he's got a future ahead of him. Not that Freddie Freeman didn't have a future ahead of him, but the last 5 years of Freddie Freeman's career have been superstar seasons, and they have been the height of his prime. And we're getting that with Matt Olson.
Right. Absolutely.
So,
yeah, it was, we had even talked about it last week in our podcast about if they sign him to the extension, it makes it all worth it with the players we traded away and everything. And then immediately it was reported that, they signed the contract, and I was like, I saw it come through on the tweet, and I was like, today the Braves signed Matt Olson. I was like, 8 years. Like, it was just sort of, it took a second for it to sort of was happening, and watching the press conference and everything. It was like, this is so cool. Like, we don't have a ton of
surreal.
Like big signings like that.
No,
it's like the 1 or 2 years, but this is like a blockbuster thing, and it was pretty cool.
Yeah, I think the last time we had a press conference for a signing was Josh Donaldson, and that was only 1 year, $23 million. So sure, it was a big deal at the time. It's nothing compared to what Matt Olson for 8, potentially 9 years means. I mean, we basically put all our eggs in that basket and said, we believe in this guy. We've watched him from afar, and we blew up the farm to get him. And now we're going to back up the truck, and it was really nice to see that. A lot of people were saying things like, oh, well, look at Liberty Media now, stuff like that. And people just don't seem to understand that that's not how Liberty Media works. They actually cannot put money into the Braves as part of the deal that was reached when they first acquired the Braves. that was part of the owner's concern, was that Liberty Media would neglect the Braves and not put any money there. So the deal that they ended up coming up with was, okay, fine. Well, the Braves can operate on their own with their own revenues, and we won't even touch them. So Liberty Media is not even allowed to touch them. So this is all the Braves. This is all that ticket money, all that, concessions, everything from the World Series, everything from the postseason, all that money that we poured in there during October last year is coming to fruition right before our eyes. And if we keep doing it, we might sign a Carlos Correa next year. We might go all in. I mean, we might see the Braves give out the first $300 million contract in team history next year. And that would be pretty epic. So,
yeah. And I feel like that was because I want, like, we were just talking about Carlos Correa, and I was like thinking about the possibility of him signing with the Braves. And my thing was like, I don't see them giving out a 10-year, $350 million, like a Corey Seager got. I just don't see them doing that. And now that we've done this, I'm like, obviously that's like twice as much money, but still it seems like they're willing to give out the big contract if it's right. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah, if it's the right fit, and Alex is all about the right fit. He's always said, if I think this guy is going to be right in the clubhouse, if I think, if I look at the numbers, Alex has his things that he looks at. His analytics team is clearly big on guys who hit the ball hard. That's why we got a Duvall. That's why we got a Rosario. That's why we got a Jock. That's why we got Duvall, Soler, and Jock. Rosario doesn't actually hit the ball that hard usually, but he's a big contact guy. So he liked that about him. And he even said that. Alex even said that when he was being interviewed after signing Rosario this week. And he was like, look, he's not the guy who's gonna, just crush baseballs everywhere. But he puts the bat on the ball. And that is just as important to me as a guy who can hit the ball a long way and hit the ball hard, because you got to have contact guys in the lineup too. And also Rosario does have some power. So we're going to get the best of both worlds with Rosario, I think. And
he's a threat on the base paths too. I feel like he'll steal the base.
Yeah.
So he's a guy who he'll get on, and then it's like move him over, get him in. It's like, those are the things that, so I feel like you might see him hitting, because I know in the World Series and then the postseason, he kind of was, sometimes he was hitting first in the lineup, sometimes he was fifth. So it'd be kind of interesting how they do the lineups. But I think he's a good guy to kind of hit lead off until, Ronnie comes back. But again, we'll see how it all plays out.
I would really like to see him hit second.
That's a good spot too. Yeah.
Because, he is a high contact guy. Ronnie is a super high on base guy. So Ronnie's going to get on base like crazy. He's going to lead off with a double every 3 at-bats. So every 2 at-bats, he's going to lead off with a homer or whatever it feels like. I mean, it feels like he literally hits a home run every time he comes up to lead off a game. But, as long as he's getting on for, 4 out of 10 times to start the game off, you've got a guy right behind him who doesn't strike out a ton, puts the ball in play, has a little bit of pop. Like, there's going to be a good amount of times where 2 batters into the game, it's 2-0. It's 1-0, So I really like Rosario in a 2-hole. A lot of people won't like that because a lot of people believe you should have your second best hitter hitting in the 2-hole. I agree with that. But with Rosario, it's a little bit different because of the contact skills. And then you follow him up with Olson or Riley, who are both just mashers, and they're going to hit the ball out of the ballpark a lot. You might have a lot of first innings where it's 3-0 or it's 4-0.
Just the thought of it, this lineup is going to be, and then I'm just like, especially with the DH, I'm like, this is almost top to bottom. Just, it's awesome.
It just never falls off. I saw, and actually you and I were both tweeting about it separately about the Phillies and their lineup, and the top half is just stacked. And then you get down to the bottom. I mean, it just crashes. I mean, you've got Didi, what's his name? Who's the guy who beat his wife?
Oh, Odubel Herrera.
Odubel Herrera, or maybe it wasn't his wife,
Alec
girlfriend,
Bohm.
whatever. They're never mind. Excuse me. I don't know if he beat up a woman, whatever it was. I don't know a lot about it, so I will take that
Refrain
back.
from getting-
Yeah, I'll refrain that. But there's domestic violence there, whatever. So
Yes.
that he has a light bat, and then I think the other guy down there was Alec Bohm, and I mean, I've not seen enough from Alec Bohm to be impressed by him. He's in 2020, he was impressive.
Yeah.
But
that was 60 games, and you don't know
Yeah.
what he would have done over the full.
he had
season.
Austin
And he kind of
Riley
fell off
syndrome.
last year.
I mean,
Yes.
he looked very much like Austin Riley. And if he is going to follow an Austin Riley time frame, then 2022 is probably going to be a huge year for that guy. But you can't count on that. And I mean, Castellanos, yeah, great bat. Schwarber, great bat. They've got like 10 DHs.
Yeah, that's the thing is like I was joking about, they're going to be losing games 11-10 because their defense is going to be atrocious.
It's going to be so bad.
So
yeah, and I actually had somebody tell me that, well, it's not that much worse than the Braves. I was like, hold on. Like, the Braves infield defense is phenomenal. Austin Riley may grade a little bit different when it comes to like outs above average and stuff, but DRS liked him. Some other things really liked Austin Riley. Dansby Swanson is an above average fielder. I'd say that. Ozzie Albies is an above average fielder. Matt Olson is one of the best defensive first basemen in baseball. So there's a great defense going on there. So just comparing the Braves to some of the other defensive lineups that you've got with the Phillies and the Mets, the Braves certainly have the defensive edge, I would say. The Marlins are pretty good defensively, I think. I haven't really looked at a ton of the stats, but up the middle, I know they're pretty good with Rojas and Chisholm. So
yeah,
it's going to be a fun year in the NL East.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just gonna say, I think the Marlins are kind of gonna be low key pretty good. They got a couple of Joey Wendell, Avisail Garcia. They just got Soler. I saw that last night.
Yeah,
years, I think. Right? I didn't look at the details of it, but so.
Yeah, but he's got an opt-out.
He better get the biggest standing ovation the first time he steps up to the plate.
He will.
I can't wait.
Yeah, him and Jock.
So I feel like
I think when Jock comes back, he's going to get a big one too. And Freddie will, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
But there's a lot of, unresolved feelings and stuff there. I think that over time, when Freddie does get to Atlanta in June, everybody will have kind of cooled down, and everybody will still, they'll step back and say, well, we had a pretty magical 12 years together. So.
Right. And that's the thing. Even if some of this stuff rubs you the wrong way, you can't, deny what he's done for the team. So
no,
I'm sure they'll do the tribute video and all that stuff, and it'll make
Of course they will.
Back to Atlanta, so
for
sure.
All right. Well, we pretty much went over everything that kind of happened this week. We've got some more fun stuff coming up in spring and stuff with some of the competitions that are taking place with the bench. So we'll kind of touch on that stuff next week. Maybe another signing or two. I'd like to see the Braves bring in a starting pitcher. We could really, really use another starting pitcher, especially with 14 games to start the season. I think that we really need that. So hopefully we'll get to see some of that next week. But and until then, I think we pretty much covered it all this week.
Yeah.
So,
Sounds good.
Well, all right. Well, we'll see you guys next week. Have a good one and go Braves.
All right. Go Braves.